The following is a segment from session 4 of the Honestly Better Mental Fitness Show. If you would like a list of all the segments and full sessions, please visit honestlybetterfitness.com/list. That's honestlybetterfitness.com/list.
Welcome to LH Industrial's Honestly Better Mental Fitness. I'm Mike Lomberg. I'm the president of LH Industrial, standing in the middle of a breezeway in the shop in Tempe, Arizona, to get an idea of what we do behind us here. I found mental fitness a few years ago, and it changed my life. It's changed my family's life. And now we'll bring it to all of LH Industrial and recording it to put it out for us to hearing. Thank you for joining.
So in looking at how childhood impacts us as adults. As adults, we see ourselves as fundamentally shy, bad-tempered, anxious, low energy, when we are often, for good or bad, that way as the result of the environment we grew up in. We live in the present, looking through the lens of the past. And I think that our dog was a great example right there, right? The dog is in the present, but he's looking at me through the lens of the past of people like me that he's seen in there. That's what he's reacted to. And that's all of us. That's all of us. In each moment, we are judging and interpreting our experience moment by moment. It's pretty much impossible not to. The only thing we can do is become aware of our judgments and interpretations of that. Beliefs about ourselves as a result of our upbringings, we'll call it. As children, things that happen to us are received as being because of us. He is not there because I'm not good enough. She's mean or sad because I can't get it right. Responsibility, and I'm not putting on this one you, Claudia, because you said one word, but I'm using this one as an example here that could be. If mom's sad or depressed, it's because I'm not a good enough kid. And so then it becomes my responsibility to take care of this person, because clearly there's something that I'm not doing. I just said that we look at the world and we're judging it and interpreting it all the time, which is true. And kids are a little bit different, especially younger. There's literally a different brain state. They're more in a theta brain state, where we're going to be more in a beta brain state. And we receive the world differently. And I think one of the examples in the ways that is most apparent and most factually apparent is in language learning. Adults have difficult time learning new languages because we're like interpreting it and filtering it, and like we have to think our way through it. Okay, that word that I'm trying to say, okay, that word goes to this word, connect the dots. Okay, yeah, this is the word I'm looking for. But that's not the way speech works, and that's not the way language learning works. Where kids are more like sponges. It just happens. It isn't going through a filter of thought. It's just the thing that happens, and it's in here. And I'll give you an example of what I mean by the filter of thought again. Well, if we go back to our baby in the bathtub example, the baby's nervous system just registers sensation to anxiety. A smack is coming. It's not thinking, oh, wait a minute, someone's rubbing the belly again. I know what happens when rubbing the belly. I'm about to get smacked, so I'm going to prepare myself to get smacked again. Like there's no thought that happens between those two reactions, where a lot of times we have more thought. And so we're putting the language learning filter through this like thought process of judgment. Do I agree with that? What do I think about that? What do I feel about that? Where they are just receiving. They are like clay that is just being molded without thinking about, is this the way that I want to mold the clay? And they learn those languages so well because they're not thinking about it. They're just receiving it. And so in the same way that they're interpreting the environment around them, they're not thinking about it. They're just receiving it. It just happens. They're just there. Mom's sad. I see that as a reflection of me, because I know a me through the reflection of others. I know I exist because as I move through the world, things move around me. And so that is fundamentally the way they take it. If only I could be better, then they may be better. Here's another example. People treat me this way because somehow I deserve it. Maybe a parent that's abusive or harsh or critical. It's not, wow, this person's an asshole. What's their problem? Right? It's, oh man, I screwed up again. Oh, if only I could get this right. Like I keep trying. Okay, I'm going to try harder. This is we're going back into our try harder again, right? Like try harder next time. Next time I'll be better. Next time I'll do this. Next time I'll do that. I'll try there. And this is why part of the reasons that the most fundamentally destructive thing we can do to kids is like unpredictability. You know, where it's just randomness. Kind one day, you know, they do this action and they're kind or nobody cares, and then the next day they do that same action and then they're getting abused for it, and they can't figure out the pattern, or it's random. Why? And there's just no rhyme or reason behind it is one of the most destructive things for kids. And so if people are treating me poorly, if I'm being bullied in school, it must because something in me. It's not them, it's me. It's my fault. I'm flawed. Beliefs about the world. As children, we make large-scale generalizations about the world based on our very limited interactions with a limited amount of people. And just think of your judgments and perceptions. If I say, tell me about business people, tell me about computer people, tell me about teenagers, tell me about, you know, whatever, you'd have things that you could say, right? It's stereotypes, but it's also your beliefs in there and is what you feel. And then think of like how many people you actually know that fit into those boxes. 3, 10, 100, 300, and we're generalizing it to how many billions of people in the world. Right? We are making these massive, large-scale generalizations, and really most of the time it's coming from our small family. You know, 5 people, 8 people, 3 people, whatever it is. People in authority are, because I had one bad experience as a kid of someone here, now all people in authority are this way. People can be trusted, can't be trusted. We don't respond to the one person or the one event that it was. It became imprinted on us, going back to our dog again, right? Probably had one really bad experience with one person that looked like me, and now forever, everyone that looks like me is that. And I'm not saying that as an insult, like that's smart. There's a way, like in our nervous system, it is better to see a threat when there is none than to miss a threat. And so it's better to like assume everything's a threat until it's proven okay, than it is to trust and then find out you shouldn't have. So our nervous system is biased to it. And you can think of it's better to assume that a garden hose is a snake, pause for a second, jump back, and then realize, oh, it's just a garden hose and move on, than to assume a snake is a garden hose and not pay attention to it and step on it and get bit, because you might only make that mistake once. So our nervous system is more geared to see threats when there are not. And that's part of our nervous system response in here.
I think that's a really interesting one just to double click on, Travis, and that is the looking at the negative or being nervous about the garden hose being a snake, or spending your whole time, you know, I lean way towards, you know, not worrying about the risk as much as most people. So I lean towards just going and not worrying about those risks. And that's worked well for me in my life.
Right.
The negative bias of people is what you're clicking on there, and that being foundational to our brain, that we want to focus. We're not going to talk about the 10 things that are amazing. We're going to talk about the 2 things that suck right now. And that is, I don't have that brain trap as much as most people, but I think it's still there. And I think most people don't have to be too concerned about the you know, missing something negative and dangerous. They have to be concerned about overlooking all of the positive things that are happening in their life, because they're obsessed about the 1 or 2 negative things that will always be there, right? Even those of us that are very optimistic and positive, there's negative things. If I want to really stop and think about it and write them down, I can find them. I choose not to. But I see so many people that are just crippled by always going to whatever's negative, which is ever present.
Absolutely. And it's why like gratitude meditations, gratitude practices, journaling, 3 things you're grateful for in the beginning or end of each day is so powerful, because we miss all of the things we have because we're so focused on the things that we don't.
Right.
And it's the orientation towards life, right? Like, how do we can go through life looking at the things that we don't have, and it almost goes back to our unique abilities again, right? It's the race car wishing it was an off-road truck, right? Oh man, well, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do this, right? Like, but this is, look what you can do here, and we miss all the beautiful things about our life because we're so focused on what we don't have. I brought it in not to say that, like, yes, so orient your life that way towards the negative. I bring it in as this is one of our base instincts and is why that is there. From a purely survival mechanistic standpoint, that is where a lot of the origins or the root of that is there. And is that something to strive to overcome? Yeah, absolutely. Just as I think you're saying, a lot of your success has come from not being afraid to step into those things and, looking at the positives instead of the negatives.
The children are growing up thinking everything that happens in their world is their fault. I mean, that was following me through my life. How many adults does it follow into their life? Just taking the blame for everything that's happening around them, or anybody that's mad around them, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Is that very common, or is it half of adults, or what's the
probably
split?
more. Yeah, I mean, it's all of us to a degree, right? Someone yells at us and we go to the, what did I do wrong? And then as you gave us some great examples in the past, we're like, okay, hold on, actually, maybe it has nothing to do with me. Maybe this is this other person. I should move towards them and ask and talk about it. And but I think a base level instinct is always to, what did I do?
Yeah, which I still check in with that, but not nearly as much as I used to. I'm still like, okay, did I do something that I shouldn't have here? Is there part of this? And then if I can't find it, I'm like, okay, like you said, I'll go talk to them and say, what's going on? I don't see what's happening here. And you usually find out they're just in a bad mood, something completely unrelated. But
We absolutely continue to interpret things as our fault. I mean, the world always revolves around us, right? We experience it that way, for good or bad. Kids, what's different about kids is they actually don't have the capacity to think our way through it, like you just gave us that example of.
Yeah, so
that's the difference.
Once you hit adulthood, you should be able to reason through that. And as a child, you're just going to assume it's something you did because you're the center of your own universe, right?
Right. Yeah. They're not able to move to those levels of thinking where we do have the capacity if we choose to.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's it. This is this whole awareness thing, but we don't have the ability to do that if we're not aware that we're doing it. We're automatically in that default state of, what did I do? What's wrong? How did I screw this up? Then we don't have the capacity. But once we come to the awareness of like, oh, I'm reacting that way. Is that true? Is it really that way? Or is it possible that there? Okay, cool. Let's go have this conversation and find out. But most of the time we've already moved into a defensive state, right? Well, I didn't, and but you did this, and right before we even have the chance to investigate.